Hey guys, Corell Cooper here with On the Black, and I'm joined by Gene of Korner's Korner. What's going on, man?
How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. Mets are winning. That's good.
Yeah. I'm glad they got the road trip off to a good start last night. I'm hoping that they can do 500 or better on this trip. We'll see. They always have trouble when they go to Atlanta, but hopefully they can continue to play well here in Milwaukee and then off to Pittsburgh. So.
Yeah, no doubt. With Collins, maybe they'll have a different run in Atlanta.
I hope so. Anything to change what normally goes on in Atlanta would be good.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So, hey, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, about Korner's Korner, about the Blog Talk radio show that you guys do?
Yeah, sure. Lifelong Mets fan, I guess. The late 70s, early 80s for me when I was growing up, and I was bit right away. It's a family thing. Former Brooklyn Dodger fans converted to Mets fans, and I moved to Florida when I was young, and luckily they had WOR in Florida, so I could cover the Mets and watch them. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have any of the technology that we have now. Watch the games on your phone or watch them on the computer. So I've been, a crazy Mets fan, and I started on forums talking about the Mets, and I was on one forum, and that's where I met Nick Kalidas, who decided enough is enough of forum life. You have the trolls that go on there, and they want to talk about all the world championships their teams have and who's doing better that year and why you're no good. And they're probably in the basement with a bunch of magazines in their mom's basement, So Nick set off and said, let's start our own blog. And we started, blogging and writing. And this year we started the podcast. And you were on, and it's fun. It's fun to talk baseball. It's fun to keep up.
Yeah, and that's the main reason why I do this. You mentioned not kind of having the internet back when you started, and this is kind of one of the great things about the internet and talking baseball. We would have probably never met if it wasn't for the internet.
Right on.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Now, speaking of Korner's Korner, and then also the Blog Talk radio show that you guys do, you guys have a number of contributors. How many people do you guys have over there now?
Well, we have myself, Taryn, Nick, Matt, Rob, Aaron, Ed. We have quite a host over there, and we all have a special piece. Taryn, as you know, Coop does a lot of the writing. And that's kind of cool because it takes some of that not pressure, but it gets a fresh face on there. She's great at doing that, and we're really enjoying the podcast because it gives us, we rotate depending on our schedules. We had Gary Carter right before all the bad news hit, and it was interesting to talk to him about past, teams and baseball and what it means now. And recently we had Jerry Kuzman, who was an absolute great guest. I mean, absolutely funny guy. Somebody that you could sit and have a beer or 12 with and just talk baseball.
That's what you like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, I know you mentioned Carter, and I'm not sure if you know this, but me and the guy Darren from the 7 line, we've actually teamed up, and we're printing up these kind of tribute Carter shirts, if you will, and going to be selling those and donating the proceeds to cancer research. Your chat with Carter, how was that? I mean, as a Mets fan, getting into blogging, did you ever think that you would talk to, a Hall of Famer?
No, I mean, and we're not professionals. We all have regular jobs. Right. We have no aspirations, or at least myself, of replacing Cerrone over at Mets blog. But we love what we do, and we have a good time with it. It's light. Getting a chance to talk to Gary Carter, I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, where do you start? We were asking him questions, and we asked questions, things that we haven't heard before.
Right.
So, we asked him about chemistry and things, and you just test the waters and see if he says, nah, I really don't want to talk about that. But, people, especially now with all the ways to get the media out, people that want to talk baseball. It was absolutely a great experience. Unbelievable.
Nice. Now the Mets, a couple games under 500 right now. What are your thoughts about the team right now compared to maybe your expectations coming into the season? You know, me myself, I kind of pegged them to be a little bit either at 500 or above 500, but you know, playing competitively throughout the whole season. You know, I personally think that with all the injuries that they've had, that Collins and company, they've done a pretty good job with the team so far this year. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, they've done an outstanding job. You know, I would say Bobby V would be the only guy that I would think. I don't even know if he could pull this off. It's like a a 4 game series. If you win the first two, you're disappointed if you lose the last two.
Mm-hmm.
If you lose the last two, you're happy with winning the. You know, if you lose the first two, you're happy with the split. Where the Mets are now is where I kind of expected them to be. Hopefully, when they started out terrible, I didn't think there was a chance in the world they'd be this close. I didn't at all.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's crazy because as us fans, as you know, it's a roller coaster ride. You know, they can look as bad as they did early in the season and then, you know, look as good as they've looked at some times during the season. And it is just a complete roller coaster ride with this team sometimes.
Yeah, it's like Piazza used to say, you know, you just ride the wave. You don't get too high or too low. You don't expect much. Tonight's game could be a blowout against them or for. You have no idea. And you just have to, you know, enjoy what you have.
Yeah. Speaking of kind of like having no idea, Mike Pelfrey, he's been probably one of the most frustrating players on this team, in my opinion, so far this year. You know, forget about him being kind of the ace of the staff, if you will, because I never thought that he was necessarily an ace anyway. You know, he got that title by default because Santana's out. But he just, you know, you expected him to kind of take another step up this year. And, you know, at times, he's just looked terrible this year. I mean, what are your thoughts on, are you as frustrated with Pelfrey as I am as a fan?
Yeah, you know, Taryn Cooper is a big Pell fan, and we always give her heck for that. He's got, I mean, it's almost like if you could just turn his brain off when he goes in there. He gets I've never seen a major league pitcher get as rattled as he gets. I don't know why a team doesn't bunt up the first base line every time against him, and as they're running past him, say something to him because he is frazzled. He just doesn't trust his stuff.
Yeah.
There was an interview with his college baseball coach, maybe a year or so ago, and the coach said he threw harder in college, and he's just not translating to the major. You know, he's got this. He's got the size.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when he releases the ball, it probably seems like it's right on top of you. He just will not trust his stuff, and it is frustrating. And you see a guy like Dickey and Dylan, they go out there with inferior stuff, and they compete.
Yeah, and that's I've told that to people in the past. That's one of the reasons why I like Dylan G and why I think, you know, he can be successful in this league long term, because he's kind of a no-nonsense guy when he's on the mound. He doesn't kind of nibble with the batters. He goes right after him. You don't see him walking around on the mound, taking off his hat, wiping his brow and all. He gets up there, he pitches, and he throws strikes, and there's something to be said for that.
Without a doubt. I mean, one of my favorite pitchers of all time, believe it or not, was Rick Reed. Because when Rick Reed went out there, you knew you were going to get 7. And it was, you know, and it was going to be no baloney. He didn't, you know, they didn't blow him out. He didn't pitch no hitters, but he was steady Freddy. And that's what you ask. The park that Pelfrey's pitching in, and he does okay in City, he should be away. If St. Louis ever got a hold of Mike Pelfrey, he'd be a 20-game winner. I hate to say it.
Yeah, why do you think that? The pitching coach there?
Some magical dust in St. Louis. Whenever they grab a mediocre pitcher, they can just, you know, it all works out for them.
Yeah, you're right. It does seem to do that. Switching topics a little bit, want to talk a little bit about kind of, you know, the hot topic right now for the Mets, which is Jose Reyes. You know, not only his play on the field, which has been unbelievable. I can't believe he's sitting at, I think he's 3rd right now in the All-Star balloting for shortstop. Us Mets fans got to get out there and vote for him. But, you know, obviously as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline, you're going to hear more and more about possibly him being traded. If we pass the deadline and he's still on the team, going to hear more and more about what's going to happen this offseason, whether or not the Mets are going to pay him, all this stuff. The fans have had a big movement, the Don't Trade Reyes movement. What are your thoughts on Reyes and kind of how the fans have come together and letting the Mets organization know that they want their guy to stay here?
Yeah, we've talked about this on Korner's Corner as well. In the beginning of the year, they said basically if Wright or Reyes gets traded, which one should it be? And I was always a proponent, believe it or not, trade David Wright. If you have to trade one, if you're forced at gunpoint, because to replace a shortstop and a leadoff hitter is way tougher than a third baseman and a middle of the order guy, or even a power guy. That being said, I mean, it kind of frustrates me these contract years because everything seems to work out for the Beltrans and the Reyes. But he's a kid. When you look at his 2006 numbers, it might have been one of the greater offensive seasons in Major League history when you look at doubles, triples, home runs, RBIs, and stolen bases combined. I mean, he just tore it up.
Yeah.
If this guy can stay healthy, and this is no revelation, Corral, so here it comes.
Yeah.
If he can stay healthy, he's going to dominate.
Right.
Here's the kind of cool thing. If you're a real Mets fan right now, and this ownership has to, not the ownership, the management has to impress you, the general manager, the people that he's surrounded with. If they trade him, which I'm not a fan of, if they trade him, it could be really exciting to see what they do. Because I think the Mets' hands are in better management hands right now in terms of player development, in terms of what they can acquire. But I definitely think fans can make the management say we want to keep Reyes.
Yeah,
I think they can in New York.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that, and I got to say at the beginning of the year when I was asked that question, Wright or Reyes, I was for keeping Wright, but up until recently and thinking about it, just laying out the reasons that you said, first of all, I don't want to pick between the two, but if I have to. I think I'm more, saying that I want to keep Reyes now because, he's such a dynamic offensive player. You're right. It's hard to replace someone like that at the top of your lineup. And, if he doesn't, if he keeps his head out of the clouds every once in a while, he could potentially win a Gold Glove one of these days too.
Right. Well, you weren't wrong with saying, keep Wright. The interesting thing about this year is this is the first time he's legitimately been hurt.
Yeah.
So you always had that, hey, Wright stays on the field. Wright gives you 158 every year.
Yeah.
It's Reyes that can't stay on the field. Now you're dealing with a back injury, which is more severe than those leg injuries with Reyes. And I agree. Try to keep both of them. Build a team around. This may be a way to unify the fans to get them excited about the Mets. But if they get rid of him, either way, I don't know that we win if we get rid of him as Mets fans, but I want to see what Alderson and company are going to do. And they look like they have a plan. They don't lose personally. When they make trades, the Alderson and his group, they usually know how to do things.
Yeah, you're right. And it does seem like, the management team knows what they're doing. Hopefully, they have this thing headed in the right direction. To your point earlier about sort of the fans influencing things, I can remember right before the season started, us bloggers, we had a conference call with Sandy Alderson, and one of the questions one of the bloggers asked, this was right after Castillo got cut, and one of the bloggers asked, how much did the fans' feelings play into that? And Alderson was very upfront and said that, it wasn't obviously that wasn't the main reason, but the fans, feeling towards Castillo did play some part in that. And I thought that was interesting. So I agree with you. I think the fans could play a part in keeping Reyes. How big of a part, I don't know, but they could play a part.
Exactly.
Yep. Well, hey, Gene, I want to thank you for taking the time for joining me tonight. For those of you watching this video, you can check out Gene and the rest of the group over at Korner's Corner. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Corral, take care, buddy. I appreciate it.
All righty.